Hello, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today we are covering Oathbringer, chapters 45 through 47, wherein Vale gets to learn some spy skills. That was a bit of fun. And Shallan is attending a meeting and actually stands up for Renarin. I was pretty proud of her at that point. It very much gave me vibes of, that's my brother. You can't bully my brother. I can bully my brother, but you can't bully my brother. Moving on, Moash is taken to join the Parshman as a captive and gets to see a bit around there. Scar struggles to be without the ability to draw in Stormlight, but after some inspirational words to Lynn, he finds he's helped her and himself to draw in some Stormlight, which is very cool. And finally, Yasna and Ivory discussing things such as Shallan and the Orders of the Radiance, and a bit of a mystery at the end. She's learnt something from Wit that we're not ready to find out about, apparently. I'm Jamie, and today with me is
Dac
and Data.
No Joe today, so just the three of us. Get ready, everyone. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Yearnings intertwined, the golden age in ashes once again. Under stirring stars, in the burning shards, kindle fragments of the falling rain. So look to the break of dawn, to the break of dawn. Stronger
Yeah, so we did 4 chapters this time. Not a lot of action, I don't think, but some interesting little bits here and there. What did you guys think of these 4 chapters?
They're alright. I wouldn't say my favorite of the bunch, but there was some interesting stuff in there. Yeah, I liked Shallan standing up for Renarin was nice, even if she picked the worst time and manner in which to do it in. But whatever, baby steps. I think the Scar chapter was probably my favorite. I'm really liking this. Let's say the other perspectives of Bridge 4. I think that's really cool. Interesting little way of doing it. Some insight into some characters who don't normally get time in the limelight. Yeah, no, I'm really enjoying that. And then the Shallan stuff was nice. It was finally good to finally see into her head properly and get some of her perspective. So interesting stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't say to this week's chapters or anything groundbreaking compared to some of what we had before.
Yeah, that's fair. You and Jamie both mentioned the bit with Shallan and Renarin, and I'll agree with you that it's nice to see her. We've really been ragging on her a little bit for being like, yeah, that Renarin guy, he's weird. But now we get a little bit of like, hey, only I can call him weird. You back off, random girl. So that it's nice. We're building the relationships a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to talk about the other chapter. Yeah, Moash. Wow. It really seems like they could not have found a more cartoonishly evil Light Eyes for him to come into contact with just to really hammer home that Light Eyes suck. Yeah. Oh, I brought you this soldier. Well, he can't even talk. Throw him out and have the one who brought him to me beaten. And Mosh's going, yeah, Light Eyes are evil. I was expecting the dude to fucking twirl a mustache as he said this. I'm like, oh my god. You could not have gone harder into just cheesy villainy, in a very short amount of time if you tried.
I mean, a lot of the Alethi Light Eyes were always kind of over the top, evil, but
you can't call it out of character. We know what Alethi society is like. It fits, and I guess that's the aggravating thing. But it just laid it on real thick, really quickly.
You're not wrong. He's not even on page that long, and you're just like, wow, yeah, okay.
Yeah, just oh boy. So. Hooray, Moash is continuing to get his perspective chapters.
Yay! Everyone's excited.
Yay.
Yeah, I mean, these chapters were good. Like I said, not a lot of action stuff, but that's okay. We don't need action every single time. And I feel like we're still fairly early in this part, but we're probably not now. We're probably getting closer to the mid or the end. Shallan's chapter, I liked the scene with Vale and the spy. So Vatha actually being somewhat good at it. I thought that was kind of fun. We'll see what happens with them going forward. Not at all surprised that Gaz is not quite spy material, but Gaz and Red interacting was kind of fun. But I did like that little little scene. Not sure where that storyline is going to go exactly yet, but there's a lot of mysteries in there we can uncover later. Moash, yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting to see what's going on with the humans as we see them being captive. I think it's interesting that they're being not interesting that they're being put to work, but I guess how organized it is. It kind of surprised me, with how poorly they were treated. That coming back in, it's all really organized, and they're gonna, use everyone to their full advantage. But I guess it makes sense. They've been watching this for a long time, so they kind of know how to organize things. But they're obviously getting ready for something pretty big there. Scar, I did like his chapter. I was feeling really bad for him. He just wanted it so bad, and he's trying hard, and it was nice to sort of see touches of the other Bridge 4 storylines now coming in through other people's perspectives. So we saw a bit of like Rock's children are around, Teft, like there's full acknowledgement of his problem, and how the other crew, like what they know about it and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's a highlight of this part so far, is seeing all the Bridge 4 perspectives, finally getting into the heads of some people that we've seen around for a long time. But, now we get to know a bit of their past and their backstories, and seeing how they're all coming together. Kind of like Kaladin's there, but he's not a central part of it. So I think that's quite good. And I thought his speech at the end of his chapter was really good, and I was like, man, you need to hear your own words. This is great. This is exactly what you need. And then it worked for him too. So that was kind of nice. And Yasna's chapter, I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going to happen with her, and I'm really excited for more perspectives there. To get a conversation with Ivory was pretty cool as well, and their take on what's going on with Shallan too. They know something's not right, not able to sort of put their finger on it, what the problem is. No trust of the cryptics, which we already knew that, but that was very, very evident in here. And then the thing that piqued my interest the most is obviously the bit at the end where Wit's told them something about one of the orders, and no one else knows it. It's not common knowledge, but people aren't ready to know it. I have no idea what that could be, but I'm excited for a mystery.
If there's one thing we needed, it was more mysteries.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is fun that apparently Wit is sharing secrets with Yasna. We still really haven't seen much of him, have we? Since she got back, so
no.
Kind of like what's that fella up to? But one of the things I will call out, like you mentioned, it's interesting to see this, like Yasna and Ivory having a conversation and stuff. And Dac was worried when we started part 2 and Yasna was a perspective character that it would be one of those things where at the very end she would get like half a page of perspective and that would be it. But we got a pretty decent bit of her here and got to see inside her head some, which I think is new for us. This may be the first time that we've had some Yasna like this.
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember.
Not ruling out the possibility this might be the last time we see inside her head.
She's so full of secrets, Also, as much as we, don't love Moash, it's interesting, I feel like, to have him as a perspective at this point, if only because we don't have any other perspective characters, not like all our other people are in the tower or in Urithiru at this point. We have no vision into what's going on in the rest of the world. So it's kind of nice to have a person who's in the thick of that. And obviously he can't see everything. He only sees his little piece of what's going on out here and what's happening as the Parshendi or Parshmen or singers, whatever you want to call them, as they get ready to do whatever they're doing. But it's still interesting to get something of that.
We sort of had a little taster with Kaladin of sort of the overall type thing. But I quite liked the more in-depth look around at what was actually happening inside the camp. Like obviously Kaladin was there when there was a storm and it was pretty chaotic and all that sort of stuff. But to see sort of how they're getting organized and all that sort of stuff was quite good. Dare I say it, I wouldn't mind getting a few more of these perspective chapters so we can try and gain a bit of an understanding of what's going on and maybe try and piece together a bit of that puzzle, when they get back to Kolinar and what's going on there. I think that's where that'll all tie in. So it'll be until Kaladin and Elhokar leave, you're right, this is the only sort of window we have to outside Urithiru, which is really the first time in these books we've ever been in that situation.
Where everybody's in the same place finally.
Yeah, everyone's there. I mean, I guess we weren't really getting Yasna perspectives when she wasn't there, but
That's true. Yeah, there was a decent amount of the last book where all of our actual perspectives were in the Shattered Plains, I think, after Shalon got there. But
yeah,
it's interesting to have so many people and how often they are in the same place now that I think about it. But also, like you mentioned, we finally have something that Vatha is like good at. I put a question mark at the end of that, but that he's interested in. Like he's like, "Ooh, I want to do this." And Shalon's just like, "Yeah." He's always like the laziest of the guys that work for me. And finally, we found something that he's interested in. So that's kind of fun. We might actually get some more Vatha characterization out of that, which would be nice.
Yeah, interested in and at an early call, but seems to be quite good at so far. As far as sitting in a bar and observing people goes. It'd be interesting to see what he comes up with.
Yeah. I mean, nobody, with the exception of, I guess, Shalon, is great at it yet, but that's because they just started, right? So, yeah, it's gives us some place to grow and could make for some interesting stuff. Maybe the book has been ignoring them in kind of the same way that Shalon has been ignoring them. Like, we don't know what to do with those guys. They're just kind of over there. And so now maybe we're doing something with them. That could be fun. Not Shab, though. Shab and his whining gets to stay in the barracks.
Also Irish dude.
Yeah. Okay, I guess let's get into these chapters, you know. Our first chapter is The Bright Side. And the epigraphs continue. We are indeed intrigued, for we thought it well hidden, insignificant among our many realms. The previous epigraph was, we know not how you located us upon this world. So that's what kind of builds into this. So whoever this is has many realms and thought that this particular one was insignificant among them. Kind of interesting.
I'm curious about this, you located us. Because we've seen maybe half the shards at this point, and we don't know who and where the other shards are. But whoever this is saying us. So is that implying that the shards that we haven't seen yet are all just kind of hanging out together on this one little backwater?
That would be interesting if they've just got a clubhouse they all hang out at.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, Odium's kicking the shit out of things. Whatever, let's just hang out here and just... So like the first 8, those are the active shards, and these are like the lazy ones, just like laziness or indifference. those shards are the ones that hang out here and they're just not doing anything.
I love the idea.
Procrastination.
An indifference shard or a procrastination shard. That would be awesome, actually.
Yeah.
It's like Odium's killing everybody, huh? Whatever.
Whatever. Blue's Clues is on.
Couch potato shard. I could be up. I could be up for that job. Actually, that sounds fun. I will say, once we get to the end of this part and we finish up the letters, we will kind of look at them more in depth and talk about where they're from. Maybe try to make some guesses.
Ooh.
But that'll be... I think Jaymee was right in saying that we're about halfway through part 2 by the end of this section. So we got a ways to go.
We are?
Through part 2 of the book? Yeah, I believe so. Hold on, let me see. This will be the 4th episode of part 2. Oh, and actually, there's only 1, 2, 3 episodes left. So yeah, pretty close to halfway. A little more than halfway through.
Oh, wow, okay.
Through part 2. Yeah, we'll actually read the interludes and the end of part 2 and the interludes in 3 episodes from now. So,
wow, okay.
We're making progress. So this chapter starts out with Vale and some of her people hanging out in a tavern, and Ishna, who she has recruited to teach them to be spies, is bringing them here to do some training. And Red is like, okay, so we've brought Red, we've brought Vatha, and we've brought Gaz. I'm sure Dac's happy to have Gaz included. And Red is like, yeah, this is all great and stuff, but when do we learn with like stuff with knives? Not that I really want to kill anybody, but just, you know. And Ishna's like, I know what. Knives are DV. And Vale goes, DV? He's like, yeah, DV, you know, incredible or neat, but in a smooth way. It's smooth with 4 O's, so in a smooth way. And I love that Gaz just pops in like, everyone knows knives are DV. Like, come on. So I don't remember if we've ever heard that word before, but there you go.
I'm almost certain that we have not.
I feel like Lift says it at some point, but I don't remember if it was before now or after now. Spoiler: Lift will show up at some point and may say this word.
Oh, I think we definitely got that impression from when she showed up in the vision.
Right?
But
yeah.
To be honest, a lot of Lift slang kind of washes over you after a while.
That's probably true. Yeah, fair point. And so Ishna has to be like, look, the espionage isn't like James Bond shit. She didn't say that, but that's the upshot of it. It's all about gathering information, seeing without being seen. You got to try not to stand out so people don't remember you. And Red and Gaz have like a comedy duo going on over here. Red's like, oh, Gaz is out. And Gaz is like, yep, it's a curse being so storm and interesting. But Vatha is over here like, hey, shut up, guys. Like, I'm interested in what's happening. So how do we avoid standing out? I'm tall. Gaz has one eye. Like, people are going to remember this shit. And she's like, well, we have to channel attention towards traits that you can change. So, Red, if you wore an eye patch, that's a detail that would stick out. Gaz, I could like have you lay down on a table, pretend you're drunk and passed out, and no one would ever know that you had an eye patch. But first, we need to talk about observing. Like, you have to be able to do observation before any of the other stuff matters. So, does anyone else, can any of you, she makes everybody close their eyes, can you tell me anything about the people in the bar? And Gaz is like, well, there's a cute girl over at the bar. She might be Thalen. So, okay, what color is her blouse? I don't know, but it's real low cut. And Red, still trying to be a comedian, he's like, there's an ugly guy with an eye patch. Short, annoying type, drinks your wine when you aren't looking. Maybe Red and Dac would get along. They can both make fun of Gaz. I'll have to admit, drinks your wine when you're not looking, if that's seriously a personality trait of Gaz, that would annoy me, for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, like that, how dare.
Vatha remembers a couple of people. He's like, I think there's some guys at the bar with Sabarial uniforms. Maybe half the tables are occupied. And Ishna's like, okay, well, actually, you know what? You guys are, that wasn't good, but you guys are doing better than I expected you to do for a first try. So I'm going to train you so you can pick up more of this stuff. And Vatha's like, hey, wait, what about Vale? Doesn't Vale have to play too? And Vale just rattles off like, there's 3 guys over there. 2 of them are soldiers, probably related based on their noses. That girl that Gaz is talking about isn't Thalen, but she's wearing a Thalen dress. And really, I think it clashes with her skirt. And like, she just goes off and lists off everybody in the place, basically.
Observant and judgy.
Right? Yeah, a little bit judgy. Although she goes, like, I don't like the pairing, but she seems to. So she's like, hey, as long as she likes it. It turns out she's missed one person. There's a person sitting in the back with, like, an outfit that practically makes her blend in with the tent, and she's taking notes on people. And Vale's like, wait, who is that? Why is she watching this? And it's just like, no, there's going to be a lot of people like her. Most of them are employed by high princes, and they get sent out to, like, gather information and report back. And then, it kind of just skims over. Like, she gives them a bunch of different pieces of advice about how to remember stuff, how to, like, subtly take notes so that no one would notice, how to listen for the right kind of information, like what kind of stuff to try to key in on. And while Vale finds all of this very interesting, she realizes that, oh shit, Shallan is late for a meeting. I gotta go. And Vatha's like, what, she can't go without you? And Vale says, Storms, if you watched that girl, she'd forget her feet if they weren't stuck on. And then we cut to Shallan going to the meeting. And I love that she's annoyed. Vale just drinks so much. She's like, I had to burn off like an entire barrel's worth of alcohol before this meeting. Like, you can stop that, Shallan.
That's you.
No one's making you drink that much.
Like, this is something I know very little about. Like, most of my exposure to such things is limited to Moon Knight comics. But is she actually, like, developing DID or something?
I mean, it seems like maybe. For those of you who are not aware, DID is dissociative identity disorder, what you might call multiple personality disorder if you were not up on the latest psychological terminology.
Yeah, like I'll freely admit this is a subject I don't know a lot about, so I don't want to touch too much on it because I don't want to be, openly clueless and insensitive about it. But that's the impression I'm getting is like, is she actually just developing entirely separate personalities? Because she's like, we've talked about this several times now. It seems like Shallan will blame Vale for things, or Vale will have a go at Shallan for things. No, and none of them seem to like Radiant that much. I'm like, but aren't you the same person, or are you not? I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, there definitely seem to be hints that maybe it's more than just a person pretending to be other people. For sure. It wouldn't be good if she was developing a severe psychological condition right in front of our eyes, but it could be happening.
Yeah, deeply confusing.
But Shallan is going to a meeting of scholars. Yasna, Navani, some Ardents, May Aladar is there, and Adrotasia from Carbronth. Also, there's some Storm Wardens there. They've got long beards, so they like to predict the weather. She also has heard that they occasionally use the blowing of the winds to foretell the future, but they don't offer those services openly. These Storm Wardens are weird guys, I gotta say.
I want to see inside one of their heads.
Right, yeah. And then she has to pass Janala, who apparently she's not a fan of, this woman. A pretty young woman with her nose perpetually in the air. This had nothing to do with the fact that Adolin had been courting Janala soon before meeting Shallan, of course.
Is this the one that Aelin broke up with but didn't tell he'd broken up with, and so she got really shitty, and then and then her family sided with Sadeas in the whole everything going on?
Oh,
was that someone else?
That could have been... I don't know, actually. That's a good point. I have to go back and look at that. I don't pay that much attention to Adolin's ex-girlfriends as a rule, but maybe. And Shallan's like, I once tried to avoid Adolin's former partners, but, well, that was like trying to avoid soldiers on a battlefield. They were just kind of everywhere. Shallan has shown up late for this meeting again, and she starts thinking, like, about all of this amazing scholarship going on that she's just been ignoring. Like, Navani is one of the leading Fabrial minds, and it gave her all of this opportunity to study Fabrials. She's just never bothered. And she starts thinking, I need someone who can handle this. I need like a scholar. Part of me can become a scholar, not Veil or Radiant, but someone. And then Pattern starts humming at her, and she goes, wait, no. Shallan's a scholar, right? She didn't need another person to do that, right? And then ... Right? It's disturbing. And Yasna kind of blows her off. She was late, and she's like, I wanted you to help me with all this stuff, but I don't have time right now. I'll talk to you later. And I love, she's like, surely if Yasna had known I'd just confronted a deep insecurity, she'd have shown some empathy, right? And Pattern's like, I don't think you've been paying attention, Shallan. Yasna is not very empathetic.
Also, no one can see the conversation happening in your head, Shallan.
Right?
You need to communicate. And Yasna wants you to communicate. She can see something's wrong, but if you're not willing to talk, there's only so much prodding she can do.
So true. I love that Jamie's always like, why don't you people communicate? Like, come on. It's so true.
If you just had a conversation, this could be a lot better. But we would also have a lot less book. So I understand why they don't. But sometimes it would be nice.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think wasn't it the last time we saw Yasna and Shallan having a conversation, Yasna was saying, fucking talk to me.
Yep, exactly.
And Shallan just didn't.
She's like, nah, maybe sometime.
It's like I could do that, but then we have a lot less book.
So Shallan's like, I can't figure out what I want to do. Shallan had always wanted to be a scholar, but now she's got Veil, who just wants to spend her days drinking and laughing, and Radiant, who wants to be practicing the sword and hanging out with Adolin. What does Shallan want? And did it matter? Which, that's a hell of a question to be asking yourself. And the meeting starts to gather up, and then here's Renarin kind of standing off to the side, peeking in, and he's like, oh yeah, Dad said that I could come and maybe just listen. And Yasna's like, yeah, you're welcome, cousin, come on in. Has Shallan get him a stool, and Shallan's like, I didn't even protest being ordered to get a stool. I can be a scholar. I'll be the best little ward ever. Yeah, that determination lasts a whole like 5 seconds, but...
Well done, Shallan.
And so they start talking about Urithiru. And basically, they have completely failed to figure out how most of the stuff works. But they're at least going to review what they've tried so that they know what is wrong, what is not correct. And I love one of the Storm Wardens, like, I think we should take a look at the ratio of the gears used in the lifts. The science of digitology can tell us a lot about the people who made them. You can judge much about a man by the width of his fingers. And Teshav is like, what does that have to do with gears? Everything! The fact that you don't know that is clear indication you are a scribe. Your writing is pretty, Brightness, but you must give more heed to science. This fucking guy. These Storm Wardens, man.
They're not all dicks, are they?
I don't know. We don't know that many of them, I don't think. So, and Shallan's over here whispering to Pattern, like, yeah, I never liked that guy. He acts nice around Dalinar, but he's really mean. Which leads to one of my favorite jokes in the book, where she says, he's quite mean, and Pattern goes, which attribute of his are we totaling, and how many people are in the sample size? Because Pattern is thinking, like, arithmetic mean. like the average. And I love it. Math jokes.
Oh man, I'm so tired. I missed the math joke. Oh, that was a good one.
Well done, Pattern. And then Janala, who once again, Shalon not a fan of her, and she thinks like, this girl, like she doesn't even want to listen to anything she's saying. But Janala actually maybe has a decent idea. She's like, why don't we look at this from a different perspective? We're trying to look at these things and how they're designed and figure out what they are. What if we asked ourselves, what would the tower need to function? And then look for pieces that would do that thing. And maybe that will like give us a different way to examine things. And Navani's like, okay, yeah, we know they grew crops outside. So did they have fabrials to provide heat for growing crops? We can look and see if something out there would do that. And then Renarin kind of mumbles. And she's like, well, what's that, Renarin? And Renarin says, that's not right. They're not fabrials. They're a fabrial. And everyone just kind of stares. And then Janala's like, Bright Lord, are you perhaps secretly an artifabrian? Studying engineering by night? Reading the women's script? And everyone starts like chuckling at Renarin. And Shalon's like, oh, hell no.
Where we've been worried about Shallan taking out her feelings, on Janala, but maybe she's taking out her feelings about Adolin on Renarin.
Huh.
Not very nice.
I had not even considered that, but you're right. That it could totally be Janala's like, I gotta find some way to get back at Adolin. And Shallan thinks like you would never treat another guy of the same rank that way. Renarin's like an easier target than Dalinar or Adolin. Like you can make fun of him and you think you can get away with it. And I love that she thinks like, I have noted on more than one occasion how odd I think Renarin is. Him showing up at this meeting is just another example of that. But how dare you, woman, embarrass him like that? And so Navani starts to say something. Navani, like Dalinar's wife, the leader of this meeting, and all of these scientists starts talking, and Shallan cuts her off. Like, surely, Janala, you didn't just try to insult the son of a high prince. Because if you had been trying to insult him, you did a terrible job. And like, she does this sarcastic, like, I've heard you're very clever, so full of wit and charm and other things. And Janelle's like, are you flattering me? We weren't talking of your chest, dear. We're speaking of your mind. Your wonderful, brilliant mind, so keen it's never been sharpened, so quick it's still running when everyone else is done. Shallan really goes to great lengths to like just dress her down here in the most elaborate way. It's great.
Yeah.
And then Yasna glares at her, and Shallan goes, I took notes. Oh, gosh. And Yasna's like, hey, mother, can we do a short break, maybe? And Navani's like, yeah, good idea. And Yasna's just like, so I see you're still using your tongue as a bludgeon rather than a knife. And Shallan tries, well, you heard what she said to Renarin. It's like, yes, and my mother was going to speak to her discreetly with a judicious word. Instead, you threw a dictionary at her head. And Yasna comes out and she's like, yeah, I don't like... Maybe I guess her name is Yanala. I've been calling her Janala, but if it's Yasna, it's probably Yanala, right? It's like, Yasna doesn't like her either. She's just bright enough to be proud of the wits she has, but stupid enough to be unaware of how outmatched they are. And then Yasna's like, geez, this is why I don't take wards. And Shallan's like, because we give you so much trouble? She's like, no, because I'm bad at it. I have scientific evidence, and you're just the latest experiment. And then Shallan feels kind of bad. But Renarin, on the other hand, walks up, and he's like, hey, thanks for defending my honor. When Adolin does that, someone usually gets stabbed. Your way's better. And
if Navani had done it, he would never have seen that.
Yeah.
So he's probably thinking people are just letting it slide, even though it's not actually sliding in the background, but makes him feel good for this moment.
Yeah, and I think that is probably a good thing to he's building a relationship with this person engaged to his brother. But she agrees with him. This place is one big fabrial. And she feels that way because she could feel like the unmade, like starting at that central pillar and kind of just like branching out into everything in the tower from there. So she thinks it's all connected because she can feel it everywhere. And Renarin, I don't know that it's clear why he thinks that it's one big fabrial, but he seems pretty sure. It's not just a collection of fabrials, it's a bunch of fabrials put together to make one big one. And Renarin goes, or Shallan says, but what does it do? And he goes, it does being a city. I mean, it bees a city? It does what the city is. Okay. And then they look over at Yasna, and Renarin's got some advice. He's dealt with Yasna way longer than Shallan. It's like, I know she's intimidating, but you're radiant too, Shallan. Don't forget that. We could stand up to her if we wanted to. And Shallan's like, okay, but do we want to? And he says, probably not. She's usually right. And then you just feel dumb. But he also has the advice, I found the best way to avoid doing what Yasna says is to not be around when she's looking for someone to give orders to. And Shallan's like, hey, that's a really good idea there, Renarin. You're a genius. I need to get away from here. Like, maybe on the mission to Kholinar? So maybe Shallan's going to go along with Elokar and Kaladin. And then just as she's thinking about this and they're starting to gather together again, Dalinar Kholin shows up. And he's like, hey, sorry I'm late. Don't stop because of me. And Navani's like, you've never attended one of these meetings before. And he's like, I just thought I should watch and learn what this piece of my organization is doing. And he sits down and they go back into the meeting and Shallan sees Renarin look at his dad and his dad like gives this raised fist of solidarity. And she's like, oh, he came so Renarin wouldn't feel awkward. It can't be improper or feminine for the prince to be here if the Blackthorn is here. And then Renarin actually like raises his eyes up for the rest of the meeting, which I think that is a very sweet moment to end the chapter on, personally.
I know he raises the fist in solidarity, but it gives me like that, you know, dad from the sidelines with a thumbs up and a big cheesy grin, like, you're doing great, you know?
I love that idea.
Oh, I'm glad that, yeah, I'm really glad that Dalinar's there for Renarin too. That's nice.
We don't see a lot of that, so yes, I like that here.
I think we frequently make jokes, and you've said the fandom frequently makes jokes that Dalinar forgets he has another son, so this is a nice little, you know, no, he's there for his boys.
Yeah. Good guy Dalinar. And then we move into a revelation, chapter 45, which is, you can tell from the picture at the top, another Moash one. The epigraph says, as the waves of the sea must continue to surge, so must our will continue resolute alone. So it is in the plural, us and our, but also we have to be alone. So that makes little sense, I feel like.
Not necessarily. Like, you think of, imagine those movies where you got like the people who are lost at sea, they're on a boat and they're just like, we're alone because no one's coming to get us. They're a group.
Okay.
So then they're not, personally, they're not alone, but as a group, they are alone because there is no one else around them.
All right, fair point. So Moash, if you remember, was being carried by some of these fused, the ones that can fly, and they carry him to the city of Revelar in central Alethkar. And then they just drop him and shove him towards some parchment and take off. And he ends up with a bunch of other humans kind of getting herded into the city. And there's someone who eyes him, is like, don't make trouble. Don't fight or you'll be killed. Don't run or you'll be beaten. You're the slaves now. And they search like, there's like refugees coming with their meager possessions, and the parchment are looking through those to taking anything valuable, but Moash has nothing left at this point. And he goes into the city and finds that, I mean, he has some internal monologue about how he's always been this outcast, dark-eyed, and everyone looks at him like a threat and wants him to stay away, and it's still happening. As he walks through town, people are like, give him the stink eye, like, stay away. Nobody ever let him in, except Bridge 4. But that had been a special case, and he'd failed that test. Graves had been right to tell him to cut off the patch. This is who he really was. The man everyone looked at with distrust.
Oh, woe is me.
Very much another woe is Moash chapter.
Yeah. I feel like you're just like, he's like, I'm the guy everyone looks at with distrust. And you're like, yes, for good reason. I agree with you, Moash. But the way they have things set up is the parchment have different like stations for different kinds of work, and they let the slaves volunteer for what they want to do. If you don't work, you don't eat, but you can go and volunteer for whatever work is available. And there's stuff like there's carrying water, there's clearing rubble, there's all sorts of different things. With the most difficult and grueling work is apparently they need people to pull wagons. They don't have enough chulls to pull all of the military equipment or stuff that they're taking towards the front line. So no one is volunteering for that, it says. They do specifically call out that if you have skill as a farmer, you have to report this because they have a place that they're going to send you. And we also get told that women with sewing skills, cobblers, all that sort of thing, people who would be useful to the war effort, smiths, fletchers, armorers, you have to come forward if you have that. If they find out you're hiding that kind of skill, you and your whole family get put on half rations. Moash does not have any of those skills, I guess. But he's been through this town a lot when he was a caravan working guy. And so he's like, hey, let me figure out if all the caravan jobs have been taken already. That's some of the easiest work, apparently. So those are all full. But he's like, hey, is Guff around? Like, Guff's a guy that he knew here.
Man, between Guff and Glurv, did Branda give up on the names in this book?
Yeah, just throw out some letters, whatever.
Or is this some elaborate joke because Guff gets kicked out later. It's like the light eyes took no guff. I don't know.
I like the description of Guff is old wheelwright, half a reed tall, bad at cussing. And Moash is like, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And then when you see Guff, he does actually seem kind of bad at cussing, but we'll get there. And so Moash goes and finds this Guff fella. And Guff's like, oh, holy crap, you're still alive? How'd you get here? Yeah, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. It's like, yeah, you were on Jam's caravan. Jam. See, there's another name that doesn't feel like
Jesus.
went into it.
I forgot about that one.
Off to the Shattered Plains. We gave you up for dead. And why are you here, boy? What are you doing? And he goes, I just need to be who I was, Moash says. The guy's like, that makes as much sense as the storming Stormfather playing a flute, boy. But you wouldn't be the first to go after those plains and not come back right. No, you would not.
Maybe this is me reading way too much into it, but like talking about Stormfather playing the flute, and now I'm just picturing Hoyt sitting next to the Stormfather going, no, it's easy, you try.
Yeah, right? He's teaching him a few riffs, yeah.
Yep.
Moash, in his like weird rant about how he hates himself, I held the spear and I stabbed myself with it. And Guff's like, wait, you were a soldier? Come with me. And Guff leads him into this room where these people are meeting. And some guy's like, Guff, you're supposed to be on guard, fool, man. Hey, I'm storming guard, you pisser. The Bright wanted to know if we found any soldiers. Well, I found a storming soldier, so storm off. I feel like he's not good at cussing. It's true. And so they bring him in, and they find that Moash discovers that High Lord Paladar is in charge of this little backroom organization. A notoriously harsh man. Treated people so badly that he drove away a lot of the Dark Eyes from his city. The ones who had right of travel. Not a caravan passed when someone wasn't complaining about his greed and corruption. And Paladar is like, from the Shattered Plains, tell me, deserter, what news is from the High Princes? Do they know of my plight? Can I expect aid soon? And Moash is just outraged. Like, the entire society has collapsed, and they put this guy back in charge. The people had their choice of who's going to lead this resistance or whatever is going on in this back room. And this is the guy they picked. And he just thinks, to damnation with them. They'd been given a chance to escape, and it only made them more eager to be servants. And he says, Moash had a revelation. He wasn't broken. All of them were broken. The whole society, all of humankind. And the guy's like, speak up, tell me, answer my questions. And Moash just doesn't say anything. It's like, screw this guy. We're always ruining everything that we're given. Men like Kaladin were the exception, the very, very rare exception. And then the guard's like, I think something's wrong with this guy. And Guff's like, yeah, should have mentioned, he's Stormin' Strange in the head now. Stormin' Pisser. Whatever that means. And the guy's like, have that one thrown out. I don't have time for this foolishness. And have that one beaten. Post a competent guard next time. And Guff's like, no, as they drag him off. And so Moash just goes down the street and signs up for the most grueling hard labor work pulling wagons of supplies for the army. And that's the end of that. Chapter 46, When the Dream Dies. And this is an actual Bridge 4 with the patch in the picture and everything. The epigraph, did you expect anything else from us? We need not suffer the interference of another. Race is contained, and we care not for his prison. So we get Scar, who's another bridgeman that we've seen a little bit of, but not a whole lot. And they've got Scar. Sigil wants to measure weighing less, how much faster that lets you like run and do things, using the lashings. Scar is the only one of the original crew who cannot yet pull in Stormlight. And so Scar gets to be the control, where he has to run with a full pack and everything and do this whole course and see how long it takes. And then they compare that normal run to people with less weight.
Rough. The guy who just wants to burn Stormlight as much as possible. And they're like, yeah, man, you're going to be the benchmark for how crap the humans can do it.
Yep. Other than Dabbit and Relaine, Scar is the only one who hasn't figured it out, the drawing in Stormlight yet. So this thing took him 10 minutes to do, this course that he had to run. And he's sweating and running hard. How long did it take Drahe? And he says, under 6 minutes. And Scar's like, aw. And Sigil says, no, the baseline's important too. You'll figure out Stormlight soon enough. Don't worry about it, man. Meanwhile, Lopin is walking around on the ceiling. And Drahe used a quarter of a basic lashing. And he says, yeah, I know exactly the amount, that it was exactly a quarter. That's weird. And a quarter lashing upward makes you half as heavy as usual when they put him on the scale. And they're like, why does a quarter make you half as heavy? Should it make you 25% as heavy? And Dre's like, I don't know, does it matter? And Sigil says, of course it matters. What are you talking about?
I feel like that's not the first time we've had that discussion.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like we've talked about this before when it was either Seth or Kaladin doing the lashing. But I guess these guys have not talked about it.
No, I know, but I was trying to remember why it is that way. I feel like there was actually a thing.
Yeah, basically, if you use a quarter lashing, you're taking 25% of your weight, and you're not making that weight disappear, you're making it point the other direction. Gravity for that 25% is pointing the other direction. So it basically cancels out 25% that's pointing down, leaving 50% pointing down. So
that's right. Yep.
the math does make sense. They just haven't quite wrapped their heads around it yet.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I like Drahe's like, or Sigil says, it's a new record. You beat Lopin's time, Drahe. And Leighton's like, hey, did he beat my time? And Sigil says, you stopped for food on the way, Leighton. Even Rock beat your time, and he was skipping the last third. And Rock says, was Horn Eater Dance of Victory? Is very manly.
I love Rock.
Right?
Every time we read more about Rock, I just think he's awesome.
And he talks to Teft, tries to get him to eat some food. He says, here's some chowder. And he tells Scar, like, you'll get there. Don't worry about it. And Scar's like, everyone keeps telling me I'll get there soon. What if I don't? There won't be room in the Windrunners for a lieutenant who has to walk everywhere. I'll end up cooking lunch with Rock. And Teft says, ain't nothing wrong with being on the support team. And Scar's like, pardon, Sarge, but storm that. Do you know how long I waited to hold a spear? I'm not going to be the one left behind like this. And then we get a little bit of backstory for him, or the start of his backstory. Teft says, you were in the military before? And he's like, no, not for lack of trying. Have you heard of the Black Caps? That's Aladar's personal guard. And we find out through the chapter, it like drips a little bit here and there, that he tried to get into this very elite group, the Black Caps. And they told him that if he could outfit himself, they'd let him in. And he didn't have money to buy the whole, armor and sword and whatever else, whatever they used. So he just robbed the Black Cap quartermaster and stole the stuff. And he thought they'd be impressed by all the effort he was putting in, how much he wanted to join. They were not impressed. He was sold into slavery as punishment for his theft. So yeah, that kind of sucks. Although it's kind of your own fault at that point. Like, I committed a robbery and they weren't impressed. What the heck? And he starts thinking about the other people in here. Teft is an addict. Drahe had struck an officer. Eth had been caught planning to desert with his brother. This is how all these people ended up in Bridge 4 in the first place. Hobber had been part of a drunken brawl.
Nice to get this background. We didn't know much of this, did we?
No, I don't think we knew any of it. I mean, we knew now that Teft was an addict. Not necessarily that's how he ended up in Bridge 4, but yeah, I don't think we knew any of this stuff. And Teft is annoyed that Kaladin hasn't shown up yet. He's like, maybe I should get going. I have things to do, Teft says. And Scar kind of looks at him. And Teft's like, not that. I've barely touched the stuff in days. You think a man had never had a wild night out the way you're all treating me. And he's like, I didn't say anything, Teft. And Teft's like, the moss isn't the problem. The storming world's all crazy. That's the problem. And Scar's like, yeah, whatever you say, Teft. So how long have the men known? I mean, did anyone... No, not long, Scar said. No, nobody's even thinking about it. And Scar thinks, like, it's not uncommon for, people to use a little moss now and then in the army. But missing duty, selling your uniform, ending up in an alley, that's a little bit different. And then Kaladin finally shows up before we can get into it anymore. And he's brought some new, hopeful Windrunner candidates. So far, nobody except the men from Bridge 4 had managed to draw in Stormlight, but that included some who'd never actually run bridges, like Huio and Punio, Lopin's cousins, and some men from the old Cobalt Guard, who'd been recruited into Bridge 4 back in the day. And Kaladin makes the transfer with his shard blade, and they head out there. He notices the Black Caps are taking their turn at guarding the plateaus down here. Rock's children are helping out at the water station while Rock is making what eventually I guess we figured out is tea, or he calls it tea. Scar doesn't seem to agree.
Is Scar a tea snob?
Maybe. And I love when Scar walks up with Kaladin, Sigil, Teft, and Rock, and they stand next to each other, they still leave a gap where Moash would normally be standing.
Why? How long's it been at this point?
Right? That seems so weird to me. And Scar's just like, man, it's so wrong to have a member of Bridge 4 unaccounted for. And Kaladin won't tell us anything about it.
I still can't believe that Kaladin hasn't told anyone.
I know, right? Like, you should talk about this, for sure.
Like, if he just had a crisis of faith and he had to quit, like, that's one thing. But he tried to kill you, Kaladin.
Yeah.
You can't just sweep that under the rug. Tried to kill you. Tried to kill the guy you were protecting. Like, you can't just hide that.
Part of the risk there, though, for him is, should Moash turn back up, would Moash turn around and tell everyone else how close Kaladin was to being a part of that plot? Like, he was close enough to that plot that he lost Syl. So it's not like his hand, like, yes, he didn't go through with it, which is great, but he was close enough to being like, this is the right thing to do. And how much of that does he need to then tell his men?
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah, he would not want to talk about that, right?
No, especially now that he's a full-blown Radiant. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you're right. That is a wrinkle, but I still don't think it should be just covered up entirely. There's got to be some way of getting it out.
They could communicate with each other.
They
What
could.
an idea.
How
Revolutionary. Yeah. Callan says he had General Call send a new batch of hopefuls. He figures the more people we have, the better. Maybe I should have specified they shouldn't be light eyes. And Scar's like, good. What do you mean? That's Captain Colot. Good man. Helped us explore. And Callan's like, it just wouldn't feel right having light-eyed men in Bridge 4. And Scar's like, you mean other than you and Renarin and whoever else ends up with their own blades? And Callan's like, fine. Jeez, I'll stop being racist or whatever. And they decide to run the men through some formations. Maybe that'll help us feel like a group or whatever. I wish we knew how the Radiants in the old days handled expansion. Did they have like recruitment drives or what happened?
You must be this spren bonded to ride. Oh man.
And Rock makes fun of Scar for being short. You could hit my face, Scar. I've seen you jump very high. Almost you seem as tall as a regular person when you do that.
Okay, coming from a 9-foot tall monster of a man, that seems like low hanging fruit.
Right, yeah. So they break apart. Teft goes to run the recruits through some formations. Kaladin has the people who are the Bridge 4 guys who are actually able to draw in Stormlight start studying their flying and practice landings and stuff like that. And I like the note that Scar makes. When all of the hopefuls start doing formations, the Light Eyes have no complaints about being filed into rank with the Dark Eyes and worked by Teft, who's also a Dark Eyes. So everyone's just trying to be on the team. Meanwhile, Kaladin is like, Scar, I wonder how important formations are going to be. If everybody starts flying, like that change, we're going to have to come up with like new formations, right?
Oh shit, it's time for the Mighty Ducks Flying V.
I mean, that's, I'm pretty sure a pretty basic spear formation that we've already seen is the V, but...
Yeah, but now it's literally a flying V.
True. And so after an hour of training, Scar goes to take a break, get some of this tea. He says Rock said it was tea, but it tastes like boiled grain. And he's sitting over here feeling sorry for himself, but also hating that he's feeling sorry for himself. He's like, I don't sulk. This is bullshit. And then he spots Lynn sitting nearby. Sorry, go ahead.
It's like, see, Moash, this is how you handle an internal crisis. You process it and try and work on it.
But no, Moash has determined, it's like, I'm not wrong. The rest of the world is wrong. They're all broken.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who
It's
are wrong.
the children. Oh, classic Skinner. And Lynn is over here frustrated, sitting on a rock, watching everyone else doing formations. And that's the thing, like, the scouts, these women are the only ones who have never done formations before. They don't know how to do this because they've never been in battle. They're not allowed to train with weapons. That's not a feminine thing. And she thinks, I didn't pick it up fast enough, did I? He's gone and gotten some new people to test. And Scar's like, no, he's not forcing you out. He's just getting as many potential recruits as possible. And she's like, it's a new world. A world where rank and eye color don't matter. I want to be part of it, Scar, so badly. And then she's like, I'm sorry, it must be even worse for you. And he's just like, And then he tells the story about the first time Kaladin drew in Stormlight. And she's like, oh yeah, it was after he knew he could do it because Teft told him. And Scar's like, oh no, not that. Oh, you mean after he got strung up in the high storm and he started healing? No, not that either. We were on a bridge run and I was right there in the second row. It was a bad run. The Parshendi were shooting straight at us. Kaladin was the only one left in the front row. And we knew that we were going to die. I knew that I was dead. Saw the arrow coming right for me. And then they moved. They swerved midair. Kaladin was doing this special lashing that makes stuff go towards it. And it went into the wood instead of into me. And that's the first time that I can say I really knew something special was going on. Kaladin didn't even know what he was doing. Maybe we're just trying too hard, And then they have this whole discussion about what they've been told by the various people. You're supposed to breathe it in, but it's not really breathing. You're supposed to not try too hard, because if you focus on actually trying to do it, then it doesn't work. So I'm supposed to accidentally, deliberately breathe in a thing without breathing. I can see why this is a frustrating bit of advice. And he says, why do you want to be a windrunner? Because I want to soar. Nope, not good enough. Kaladin wasn't thinking about being left out or how great it would be to fly. He was thinking about saving the rest of us. So why do you want to be a windrunner? And she says, because I want to help. I want to do something other than stand around waiting for the enemy. He says, well, here's your chance. A chance nobody else has had for ages. Either you seize it or you leave. But if you leave, you don't get to complain. Because as long as you keep trying, there's a chance.
Scar being like the Hawkeye from Age of Ultron for Bridge 4 was not something on my bingo card.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah.
You step out that door, you're an Avenger.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then
Good on you, Scar.
Yeah. And then suddenly she does it. She like closes her eyes and breathes in, and she gets the light. And she looks at Scar like, what did you do? And he goes, nothing. Which he thinks to himself is exactly the problem. He can't feel jealous. Maybe this is just what he's supposed to do, help others become radiant. And then Teft spots Lynn glowing and dashes over and starts cursing, but they're the good kind of Teft curses. And he drags her over to Kaladin. And then Scar turns to Rock and complains about the tea. And it's like, yeah, it looks like I may end up joining your support team. You think I let you anywhere near the cook pot? And he's like, I don't know.
This is just hot leaf juice. How could a member of my own bridge crew say something so horrible?
Oh, I miss you, Uncle Iroh. Scar says, I might not ever learn to fly, and I need to come to terms with that. And Rock goes, and the fact that you're glowing with Stormlight right now, that's not a consideration at all in this decision. And sure enough, he looks down and he's got Stormlight coming off him. And he drops his cup and yells out and is so excited. And Rock's like, I suppose I can maybe have you wash dishes. Though you do keep throwing my cups on the ground. It's not proper respect at all. And then Scar runs off, whooping with excitement. And that's the end of that one. So Scar finally did it too. Yay.
Yay. Scar deserved a win.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of don't expect David to be able to do it since he can't even, talk. I still feel bad that R'laine is also just lumped in like, yeah, he also can't do it, but whatever.
I feel like there's other complications there.
There might be. Our last chapter, So Much Is Lost, is our Yasna chapter. And Yasna gets the chapter header image that Shallan was using in the first book before Shallan changed to like a cryptic symbol, which is an interesting note. We talked about that picture before. I think Jaymee was the one who theorized that it might be Shadesmar, and I think that's probably what it is. But our epigraph here is, indeed, we admire his initiative, talking about race still. Perhaps if you had approached the correct one of us with your plea, it would have found favorable audience. All right. And Yasna is reading a report, like the exact quote of what Talenel Ilin, Herald of War, was repeating over and over when they found him. And we've been through it before, so I won't go through it again. But she's reading it, and she's like, holy crap. These words are so specific. The abandoned herald had come to Kholinar and been dismissed as a madman. And we've got her spren, Ivory, who we don't see a whole lot of. Right now, he's a full-sized human, except also wearing a formal suit, but entirely black. Both clothing and features is just completely black. Looks like it was as if pure black marble had been coated in oil. That's a picture. All right. I also like to note that they offered Yasna some really nice rooms with like a nice view on the edge of the tower. But she's like, nah, too easy for spies and assassins to get in there. I want like a middle room with no windows.
Kind of don't blame her for being paranoid.
You're not wrong.
It's like she says, no, I demand that chamber. That's the one where we found Ray Shafir. Yep.
I know there's nothing else hiding in there. So, yeah.
Yep. It took you guys that long to find it. Now it's going to take everyone else, like, it's going to be hard for everyone else to get in. So I'm taking over. We kicked the Queen of Shadows out. Now we're sticking in the Queen of Logic.
I get the giant pillar of gems in my room. It's a nice decorative piece.
My ward found it, therefore I claim ownership.
Dibs. Yep.
It's kind of the finders keepers, but with a hierarchy.
Yeah. And Ivory says, this speaker, Yasna, this one who said these words, this person is a herald. Our suspicions are true. The heralds are, and the fallen one still is. And Yasna's like, well, we need to find him. And Ivory says that we should search Shadesmar. In this world, men can hide easily, but their souls shine out to us on the other side. And then we find out that Yasna had a plan. She lost, Shallan got one of her trunks. She lost all the rest of her trunks in the shipwreck. Well, wreck, when the ship turned to water. But everything in there, she had backup copies that she's now having sent over via span read. So that must be a heck of a job, is just having to copy out an entire books via span read, one page at a time. And Yasna's she felt back in book one, she felt like she was ahead of the game. She was the only one, as far as she knew, that had this information, that had dug out these tidbits about what was coming. And then she got stuck in Shadesmar for a whole book, and suddenly she's behind. Everything happened while she was away.
Got stuck in angry Narnia, and it didn't really work out for her.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, sometimes Narnia is angry Narnia, but yeah, no, you're not wrong. And then they talk about Shallan a little bit. Ivory says she is troubling, and Yasna goes, "Well, yeah, that hasn't changed. She is not stable." Ivory, you think all humans are unstable? Not you. You are like a spren. You think by facts, not change on simple whims. You are as you are. And Yasna seems unsure if that's a compliment or if she should be insulted by this. You're not human at all. You're practically a spren. Practically a stone, Ivory says, compared to other humans. And we get a little tiny peek at some Yasna history, where as these span reads are writing out, she's thinking a memory from a dark room, screaming her voice ragged, a childhood illness nobody else seemed to remember for all that it had done to her. It had taught her that people she loved could still hurt her. So that's some deep shit that just kind of gets skimmed over. Yasna says that in my times of peace, my mind has always been the one thing I could rely on. I fear losing that. It terrifies me. How would it have felt to be these heralds? To suffer your mind slowly becoming untrustworthy. We find out the ink spren, like Ivory, most of them were lost during the recreants. Ivory and his fellows had been mere children, or the spren equivalent, and had spent centuries with no older spren to guide them as they grew. They were only now beginning to recover the culture and society they'd lost when men abandoned their vows. And then Ivory says, cryptics are trouble. They enjoy lies. Speak one untrue word at a gathering, and 7 cluster around you, and their humming fills your ears. One does not war with the cryptics as one does with the honor spren. Cryptics have but one city and do not wish to rule more, only to listen. So, according to Yasna, Ivory is the only ink spren to form a radiant bond. Some of his fellows would rather have killed Yasna than let it happen. So, no other else callers out there that we know of.
Interesting.
Yeah. Shallan won't listen to me any longer. She rebels against every little thing I tell her. And Ivory goes, well, she never obeyed well. And Yasna's like, well, at least she pretended to care in the past. And Ivory tries to go, you're always saying that humans should question stuff more. So isn't it a good thing that she's questioning you? And Yasna's like, okay, fine, yes, you're right. I would rather have her straining against her boundaries than just happily living within them. But I worry about her ability to command her situation rather than letting her impulses command her. Which, I think that's fair, honestly, from what we've seen of Shallan.
Absolutely.
That is a very valid point there.
Ivory says all 10 orders are again. For years it had been only the 2 of them, and Ivory had been dodgy about giving odds on whether other sapient spren would refound their orders. However, he'd always been certain that the honor spren, and therefore windrunners, would never return. Their attempts to rule Shadesmar had not endeared them to the other races. So apparently the honor spren tried to take over Shadesmar?
Hell of a bomb to drop.
Yeah, right?
Also, he said something about it had only been the 2 of them. Is he implying Yasna and Shallan were the only 2 Radiants?
No, it had been only the 2 of them, Yasna and Ivory. So they'd been for years the only 2 as far as they knew.
Well,
One
as far
spren,
as they
one
knew,
human.
but we knew Shallan had been a Radiant for a while.
Yeah, that's true. She had a shard blade when she was a kid or something. So yeah, clearly they were not up on everything happening. But
Yeah.
that's not terribly surprising.
No.
Who else might have been out there that they don't know about? Ivory notes that all but one of the 10 orders ended in death. That other one lived in death instead. Which we know that one of the 10 orders never stopped and kept going all this time.
No.
We must tell the others what we learned from Wit, Ivory. Eventually the secret must be known. And Ivory says, no, it would end. It would be the end. Another recreance. And Yasna says, the truth has not destroyed me. And Ivory says, you're special. No knowledge is that can destroy you, but the others. And the chapter ends with Yasna being like, okay, we'll see.
So that really makes me think of the questions Dalinar asked Stormfather at the end of the vision with Navani and Yasna. And Stormfather's like, I'm not fucking telling you that. That would, yeah, like he said the same thing. That would cause another recreance, so it's got to be the same thing.
That's my first thought too, is like, that would make you abandon your oaths like the old Radiants did. So it does seem like it's the same thing, yeah. Unless there's two secrets that would make people do that. That would be unfortunate.
But it's like...
Turns out there's 10.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of them, yeah.
But yeah, just imagine like if that chapter had ended a little differently, like Stormfather's like, I'm not telling you that would cause another recreance, and Yasna would go, yeah, I already know. And Stormfather goes, sorry, what?
Damn it. Dalinar, we may have to kill her.
They don't know that we know that they know we know.
It's true. Yeah, I don't know that they know that we know that they know. So
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I guess if Ivory has a beef with the Honest Friend for like trying to take over Shadesmar, like Ivory's probably not happy with the granddaddy of Honest Friend, with Stormfather, hanging out with Yasna's uncle.
Quite possibly. That's a good point, yeah.
Ivory's just talking to Yasna. It's like, I don't like your uncle's new boyfriend. He's a bad influence.
Let's move into predicaments. We're gonna do 4 chapters again. Let me do the titles, and then you guys can predict about Ivory and the Stormfather and Dalinar's boyfriend, whatever. So 48 through 51. That's 4 chapters. Chapter 48 is called Rhythm of Work. Chapter 49 is called Born Unto Light. Chapter 50 is called Josh 37. And chapter 51 is called Full Circle. And at the end of this chapter that we just read, we are now 38% of the way through the book. So almost 2/5, almost the 40%.
The fact that... Okay, so I don't know what most of the chapter titles means, but Rhythm of Work, there are 2 options there for what that could mean. Probably the more likely one is it's another Moash chapter where he's following the rhythm of work as he pulls chell carts. And, we have to deal with his bullshit again. I think that's the more likely option. The option that I really hope it is we continue on seeing in Bridge 4 and we get to see inside Relane's head and we get his perspective on things. I have no idea what would happen, but 1, I think he's already a fairly interesting character, so I'd like to see that. 2, it would mean no more Moash, so that would also be amazing.
Fair.
Yeah. I just don't really have much else to predict this week. Like, most of it sort of follows on from the last couple of weeks. I feel a bit more secure in my prediction that Moa's gonna, join up with the Parshendi now, given he's just like Alethi society's fucked. Maybe we should, maybe we do all deserve to have the Parshendi kill us all. Not me, however, because I am super smart and I have seen through the facade.
Not me. None of it is my fault. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am going to turn against my people and help the Parshendi destroy them all. I feel pretty confident that we're going that way.
Okay. I mean, I could see that. Yeah, he is now getting really into the middle of all of these Parshmen, and is, as you said, very disillusioned with Alethi society. So it would make sense.
Yeah. And as much as I hate agreeing with Moash, like, I'm not going to argue the fact that the Light Eyes caste system, Light Eyes Dark Eyes caste system is pretty shit. So I can sort of get, maybe we need to upend the system, but like Kaladin was working on that, and like he was already working, and he was also working on the maybe we shouldn't kill the Parshendi thing. So fuck you, Moash.
Just very standard Dac ending there. Just
yeah,
that can go at the end of every episode probably.
We're not putting that in the sign off.
No,
but also this is what the people like. This is what the people have come to expect.
Absolutely.
We got to give the people what they want.
Probably more reason for hating Moash than there was for hating Spook. So
Yeah, or Gaz. Although to steal other people's drinks when they're not looking, that is an unforgivable offense.
How dare you, sir? What kind of monster are you?
Yeah, at this point, the only redemption for Gaz is if he kills Moash.
And then drink some wine.
Gaz v Moash. Dawn of less bullshittery. That doesn't really work.
I was like, it's not justice. I don't know what that's the dawn of. Yeah.
Predicaments. Regarding the actual chapter titles, specifics, not really sure. I do think 48 will be a Moash chapter, much to Dac's happiness. Born unto Light, maybe a Shallan perspective. Shash 37 would have to be a Bridge 4, I think. Probably refers to a particular Bridge 4 member. I don't remember who else has a Shash brand.
I don't know if we've ever been told anyone else did, actually.
That's the Dangerous brand, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, so not sure who else that could be specifically, and Full Circle, I don't know. Let's just throw Dalinar in there, as we haven't heard that from Dalinar this week, so maybe that'll be him. I think we've spoken about it before, but Shallan's illusions of Veil and Radiant and sort of getting lost in Shallan. The more I think about it, I think that we're going to end up seeing them actually split. Like, I'd like to see that with her abilities, being able to sort of project multiple versions of herself at once. So I feel like we're working towards it. She will actually end up having Veil and Radiant and herself and anyone else who she might have created at that point. And so I think we are actually in a real danger of her being split, but maybe not so much the conflict of her being those people at the same time. I don't think I'm coming across the way I want to come across. Like, I think we actually may end up having these illusions kind of do their own thing, where she might not be running them as much. Like, maybe this is a progression of her abilities. She's getting stronger. The personalities are getting stronger and more like segregated, which could be like, it could be an advantage, but it also could be really, really dangerous. And I think Shallan's definitely heading for a bad spot. Yasna can already see it's coming. I don't know whether Adolin sees it coming yet. I'd almost like to have a few more people comment on how they perceive Shallan at the moment. Honestly, I'd love to know if Rock could spot it. If he could see pattern, could he see pattern with Veil, maybe, and go, hang on a minute. I feel like we're waiting for something to happen with her before we can proceed in her story. Like, I kind of like where the Veil storyline's going, but something needs to happen with her now to progress that. And having the shadowy thing, I can't remember what she's called, Rashafir, in the basement, being able to split off different illusions as well. I feel like Shallan's probably just as capable of doing something like that. I mean, she did, I guess, down in there, but to be able to do that and then like run them as if they're their own people, she could be that powerful.
That would open up a whole host of possibilities for new ways to use these illusions. That could be scary, actually, in some ways, for sure.
As people are going to start noticing, like, we had the comment from, is it Ishara? Is that her name?
Ishna?
Yeah. Yeah,
the girl who's teaching them how to be spies.
Yeah, the spy.
Yeah.
Well, we had the comment from her, like, surely, like, Shallan can't do it without you. Like, people are going to start noticing pretty soon, especially Veil is not as covert as she was. She's having relationships with people. Like, Shallan's guards effectively are going to notice that Veil's not around when Shallan's around. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of her stuff that's not going to add up soon. So she's just digging herself further and further into this hole. It's hard to keep up with it all. Yeah,
the deeper you go, the more people get involved, the harder it's going to be to maintain, for sure. And especially if she's going to marry Adolin and try to keep this stuff a secret, like, that'll be tricky.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? This marriage is a package deal.
You get 3 for the price of 1. Okay, well, let's move on let's do some emails and wrap this up today. We have 2. This first email, this person says, I won't give you a headache trying to pronounce my Hebrew name. I'll just go by First of the Dawn. So that's what we're going with, First of the Dawn. Which is good because the the text of who it's from, it's actually like Hebrew script, and I cannot read that. First time emailer, this says, "Hello, Sanderlanche crew. Been listening to your podcast for a while, about 8 months, and thought I'd send an email to thank you for the entertainment on many long bus rides. I've laughed out loud on public transport quite a bit thanks to you guys. About how Shallan views Renarin is kind of creepy. Yes, it is very annoying, but actually it does make sense for it to be there. If you remember, Renarin was written by Sanderson to have autism. I happen to know a lot of people on the spectrum, and a pattern I've noticed is that most people notice when someone near them is autistic. Now, I don't mean that people on the street can diagnose autism, but rather they can feel that something is a little bit off. That feeling can be confused with what we would call red flags, which someone leads people to inadvertently avoid other people on the spectrum who don't mask it well. Now, combine that with the fact that Shallan has experienced some very red flag people, it makes sense for her to subconsciously be like, that guy is creepy, we should stay away. Not that I think that's what should happen in the book or in real life. I just think it's a good representation of something that does happen in real life. Good job, Brandon. I hadn't thought about it like that, but that's a good point. And I think we kind of had that same thing come up in Mistborn Era 2, where that was Brandon's explanation for, or part of the explanation for why Wayne did not like Steris and was so mean to her, was that like he sensed that there was something off about this person, and he kind of read the signals the wrong way. So it makes sense that you could also see that here.
Yeah.
Then this person includes some stuff that is just for me about suggestions on book order. I told you guys before that there is one of the secret projects that some people say you should read it before a certain other book, some people say after, and this person is making a case for why it should be after. And I will just say that I get your stance on it. I've definitely heard exactly the same arguments before. I don't know that I agree, but I understand where you're coming from. And I still haven't made that decision yet, so we'll see. The email ends, "Anyway, thanks for letting us in on your Cosmere journey. Wasing to the time of next. Colo, PS Fasher, Crabathy is what it actually says." And our other email is from Niati again, in response to, she was the one who was talking about horses in fantasy, always getting unfortunate things happening to them. And so she listened to our discussion on that email and responded, "Hi once again. I just listened to the episode with the conversation on this email and thoroughly enjoyed it. I totally see Dac's point on it being more jarring when horses are being killed left and right outside of warfare. For the record, the scene I mentioned in my last email, 5 horses out of 16, was outside of battle. 2 people were trying to assassinate someone in a carriage with mounted guards. In another book I was reading this past week, several horses died in short order when the protagonists were fleeing slavery through mountainous terrain in the dead of winter." And then she lists off, because she says, "I'm curious if anyone can guess what book this is based on this information about it." So I'm going to read the bullet points here. 1 out of 7 was killed when mounted slavers found the protagonists, since it had fallen and broken its leg during the fight. 4 of the remaining 6, plus 1 of the protagonists plus 1 that the protagonists already had, were left behind, with the heavy implication that they were going to die of exposure, exhaustion, or by a pack of wolves that was prowling about. The 2 the protagonist took with them also died, one by falling off a mountainside, the other when its leg got caught in a hidden crevasse and broke, i.e. they killed it to put it out of its misery. Mercifully, 1 pony survived the ordeal and ended up being given to a happy family with 2 little girls who loved it. I'm curious if anyone can guess what book that was based on the information. So I'm going to have to think about this for a second. So Dac, if you have any thoughts, feel free.
Well, I have a sneaky feeling in the back of my head this is something Tolkien related. I don't know why. I just have a gut feeling saying, yeah, this sounds like something Tolkien.
I could see that. The slavers...
Oh, yeah, slavers, that might not be as much.
I don't remember that happening unless you count, goblins who wanted to capture them and like enslave them or eat them or whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
But the rest of it I could totally see being like Lord of the Rings.
I have no idea.
Huh. Yeah, I cannot think. Hold on.
But did you not get the answer?
No, she did not give us the answer.
Oh.
I don't think that I can
Future
think
email.
of a book like this. Yeah, I know. You're going to have to send us again, Niati, because I don't know.
This is just a conundrum then.
Yeah. I was trying to think of what other books do I can think of a few books where people are going through, mountain passes and their horses die or whatever. The slavers thing is what's getting me. I don't remember reading a book featuring that.
And
So
I mean, it could be a Song of Ice and Fire somewhere, but I don't remember like specifics.
I didn't read most of those, so if it was that, I would not get it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that it just got thrown out there as a like everyone guess makes me think. All right, it's got to be a book series. At least one of us has talked about reading on the show, because otherwise, like,
Or or just one that's popular and lots of people know. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, Niati, you're gonna have to send us the answer to that because I have no idea. She finishes anyway. It's possible I just read a lot of books by horse-hating authors. Although in both my examples, in-world characters that kill the horses lament having to do so. Maybe I'll start keeping a tally because I love any excuse to track data in Excel. Thanks again from Niati. I've been there. I also love excuses to track data in Excel.
sure. I'll be honest. By the time we get the answer to the email, I'll be like, wait, what was the conversation we had about that again? So,
Right.
because like weeks pass between these.
Speaking of that, something that I absolutely would have forgotten if you hadn't said that just now was somebody in the Discord a couple days ago said, "Hey, Data, can you ask Dac if he has any recommendations for videos or other content that would help me get better at character voices?" So somebody who wants to get into voiceover and wants to know if you have any advice.
Oh,
or sources that could be helpful.
I mean, I am not definitely far from the most successful voice artist ever. Specific videos, no. I got into it because I did it like at the peak of COVID in 2020. There was a studio in Sydney that was offering online courses, so I did that and then purchased some equipment. And then I just started joining groups on Facebook, like looking for auditions and posting that. I haven't quite gotten like much success out of that, but that is where I got into the X-Men thing.
Nice.
So there's that. But yeah, like all I can say is look for courses and look for auditions online and just see what you can find. Yeah, there are people more successful than I. A very good friend of mine who I've done some theatre stuff with is just. I think he said he would just like audition everywhere he could. He would cold email places to follow up on auditions, and he seems to be doing quite well for himself. He went to Supernova, which is like a sort of a smaller Australian Comic-Con thing, as like a panelist for a video he did, which it was originally like a pilot episode called it's called the Gaslight District, and then he posted the other day saying, "Oh, it actually got picked up for a full series," so he's doing that now.
Nice. Good for him.
Yeah, and then there was this really big thing by YouTube called B-Mask, like all about the Thunderbolts, and my mate messaged was like, "Oh yeah, like I got to be Baron Zemo in this, like the main guy." I'm like, "Holy shit, dude!" So he's doing quite well for himself, and he just has all the energy and just throws out as many auditions as he can, follows up on people, and yeah, just works really hard for it. So I guess that's all I can say.
I mean, I've heard worse advice. So
yeah, sorry, I know that's generic, but I sadly have not been anywhere near as successful at it. So all I can say is this is what I think works. Yeah, I haven't been as vigilant with it as I really should have been.
You're getting some writing done in it as well, though, so that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, that is so much fun. I'm enjoying that. That's not a paid gig. That's purely a fan gig, but it's fulfilling on a personal level. So that's good.
Yeah. Okay. So that's all of our emails for today. If anyone would like to send us an email, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram and Blue Sky and Patreon, where I'm still posting Wind and Truth chapter reactions. I unboxed the Isles of the Emberdark box a couple of weeks ago now. Actually, the one that went up this week, I accidentally put up the wrong set of chapters. The previous set of chapters was 97 through 99, and then this week was 101 through 103. So some of you may have detected there that there's a chapter missing. That's because it was like interludes and then chapter 100. And the way that I title the files, when they start with an interlude, it messes up the order, and sometimes I miss them because they end up at the end of the list instead of where they should be on the list. So I edited and posted an episode and totally skipped one. I'm going to have to go back and fix that. Hopefully by the time you guys would hear this, it's already fixed. But that was a fun little thing on our Patreon this week. Somebody commented, like literally within, I think, 5 or 10 minutes of me putting it up. Somebody in the Discord was like, "Hey, I think you missed this." And so I went back and edited the thing to be like, "Hey, yeah, guys, sorry. I just realized I missed this. When I have time, I'll have to go and edit that other one." So at least I got on top of it quick, but I have not had time to edit the other one yet. So if you want wacky adventures like that, I mean, what could be wackier, right? Check out our Patreon. If you join our Patreon, Joe will assign you not a misting power, a faring power. if you want a Misting Power, then leave us a 5-star review on, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, and send us an email at thesanderlanche@gmail.com showing us your 5-star review, and Joe will jump you into the Misting crew. But thank you to all our patrons. Thank you to the people on our Discord chatting there. If you want to join our Discord, the link is at our website, www.thesanderlanche.com. Thank you to everyone who just shows up every week and listens to us go through all of this wacky fantasy stuff. Remember, we're doing 4 chapters for next week, 48 through 51. So if you're following along, those are the chapters to read. We've almost reached, like I said, it'll be in 3 episodes. We'll have reached the end of part 2 already and heading into the next set of interludes. So we're making rapid progress. Read those chapters if you're following along. Music by Miracle of Sound. And Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Fasher. Crab at thee.
Supernovas die, fractured in the fateful fall of man. Feel the heart raging of a strength unseen. Unity will bring the upper hand. So look to the break of dawn, to the break of dawn.